20 games, 20 dreams to be realized, 20 hearts to be broken. It's the 2024 Texas High School Football State Semifinals, and these are the picks. Welcome into the picks, your guide to the Texas High School Football Playoffs. My name is Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we've reached the precipice here, right? We are now in the state semifinals, and 40 teams across the state are 48 minutes away from punching their ticket to AT&T Stadium in Arlington and etching their name in Texas high school football history. By the way, that doesn't count the 4 teams that have already punched their tickets in the 6-man ranks. Congratulations in 1A Division II to the Jayton Jaybirds and the Oakwood Panthers, who will face off in the 1A Division II state championship game next Wednesday. And congratulations to the Whiteface Antelopes and the Gordon Longhorns, who will play in the 1A Division I state championship game next Wednesday as well. They are going to take a long week off to get ready for that big game, but there are 20 more tickets to punch to Arlington, and I think I hate this week. I've been doing this long enough that I think I've realized that the state semifinals just gives me anxiety, because all of these teams have worked so hard to get to this moment, and it's right there, right? AT&T Stadium is right there, and for 20 teams, they're going to do it, and they're going to play in a state championship game, and no matter what happens there, they're gonna live forever in Texas high school football history as a team that played in a state championship game. But there's 20 other teams, they're gonna come agonizingly close and come up just short. And that, as I get older, that hurts my heart more and more. It is a massive slate of games. We'll cover all 20 of them on this very brief video. Do not check the timestamp. We start in Childress. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Fair Park Stadium in Childress. It's a 2A Division II state semifinal between the Muenster Hornets and the Gruver Greyhounds. And Gruver, the lone undefeated team left in 2A Division II, and everything about them is just real impressive. Everything about them. They're rock solid across the board. The defense has been very strong. They forced 34 turnovers this season, and they can beat you in a variety of different ways offensively. Quarterback Brick Satterfield has been very strong, and their running back Walker Maupin has been excellent as well. My concern for Gruver is that I wonder about their strength of schedule. Their opponents are combined 72 and 74 on the season, and Muenster's coming to town, and this team is dangerous. They just got done beating Albany and Collinsville in consecutive weeks by a combined score of 110-28. That is serious business there. And it all starts with quarterback Kason Carney, a true dual threat superstar who has emerged as one of the best players in 2A Division II. And by the way, their defense is not just nasty, they are peaking right now. In the end, I look at this and I think that Muenster has probably seen a team like Gruver this year. I am not sure Gruver's seen a team like Muenster, and that's where I think the difference is. I think Muenster's more battle tested. I think the Hornets move on to the state championship game. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Cy-Fair FCU Stadium in Cypress. It is a 2A Division II state semifinal between the Bremond Tigers and the Shiner Comanches. How about Bremond back into a state semifinal? You know, when Mart crashed out of the playoffs in the area round, I think a lot of us looked around and said, well, who's going to win Region 3? And Bremond stepped up to the plate in a big way, and last week, I think, was proof of just how far they've come. You remember in non-district, they lost to Grapeland by double digits. And then they go and whomp them in the regional final to earn a spot in the state semifinal. And I think that they are a classic case of a very young team that is getting better as the season goes on. They've got a freshman quarterback in Sam Kozowski. They've got an outstanding junior wide receiver in Tristan Moorhead. And they've got a freshman, Caden Scott, leading the way on the defense. They are young, but they are hungry, and they're playing really well and getting better and better each week. They will need to be great this week against Shiner, who I think boasts pound for pound perhaps the most impressive defense in Texas high school football. Their defense is relentless. They're coming off of an absolute smooshing of Junction last week. Jake Semper has led this defense to new heights, and the Comanches are playing complementary football. Quarterback Carson Schutte and their running back Quincy Jones are running it on, grinding it out on the ground, and keep giving that defense an opportunity to fly around. This is a fascinating ball game, and I think that Bremond's got a great shot in this because of the growth that we have seen. But the way that this is going to work is for Bremond to get into the 30s. I think they've got to get into if they get to 31 points, I think Bremond's got a great shot to win this ball game. I'm just not sure Shiner's defense lets it get there. I think this game is really interesting, but I think Shiner is heading for Arlington. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Ram Stadium in Mineral Wells. It is a 2A Division I state semifinal between the Stamford Bulldogs and the Hamilton Bulldogs. And this is one of only 2 matchups of unbeatens in the state semifinals this week. And it's kind of a team that we expected to be here against a kind of a Cinderella story. Hamilton is into the state semifinals, and what an unbelievable story for Ryan Marowitz's ball club to get here. Winners of Region 2 in remarkable fashion with a 2-point conversion late against Axtell to punch their ticket here. And I love the way this team plays, right? They've got a couple of playmakers, Jackson Edwards and Isaac Wood, that they really lean on to get the job done. But a lot of this comes down to their defense, which holds them in games while the offense kind of cracks the safe and finds a way through. This Hamilton team, everything's coming up Hamilton right now. Like, everything is working for the Bulldogs. There's a real team of destiny feel for this Hamilton squad. But I think they're running into a team that is a different animal, okay? Stamford is the real deal, coming off of an absolute mollywhopping of Post in the regional final, an undefeated Post ball club, mind you. And what you see from this ball club is awfully impressive. Caston Vega is the guy on both sides of the ball. You add in Christian Duran, their quarterback, and they can beat you in a variety of different ways. In the end, I just think Region 1's stronger than Region 2, and I think that's just the bottom line of it. We've thought that Region 1 was a little bit more treacherous, and Stamford has walked that path. I think if Hamilton's defense can continue their magic and hold this down into a low-scoring slugfest, keep it under about 24 points, I think they've got a shot. But in the end, I think Stamford's your favorite. I think Stamford is heading for Arlington. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Woodforest Bank Stadium in Shenandoah. It is a 2A Division I state semifinal between the Ganado Indians and the Joaquin Rams. Joaquin? 4th place Joaquin, a team that finished 4th in their district. They played a district champion in the first round of the playoffs. They're in a state semifinal after stunning Honeygrove last week. Absolutely remarkable. The DCTF computer, which has computer projections for every game, has projected Joaquin to lose each of their last 6 ball games. 6! And yet here they are, 48 minutes away from playing for a state championship. And what can you say about running back Elijah Hardison, who has been just a moose for them, running the ball over 2,000 yards. He was spectacular in their regional final win over Honeygrove, and I think their defense for Joaquin played their best game of the year last week. They will need to be even better this week against Ganado, which looks the part of a state championship contender in a lot of different ways, especially on the defensive side. Landon Hicks leads this defense that has allowed just 35 points in their last 3 playoff games, including stymieing Marlin last week. That was a high-powered Marlin attack, and they held them down in a big-time way. And then that offense, which is really starting to hum, quarterback Bryce Ullman and running back Logan Burris, they are playing exceptional right now. I hate to pick against a Cinderella, right? Because there's something special brewing in Joaquin. But I think Ganado looks the part, and I think that's the team to beat in this ball game. I think this game is really interesting, but I think Ganado punches their ticket to AT&T. 4 o'clock Friday afternoon at Wildcat Stadium in Abilene. It's a 3A Division II state semifinal between the Wall Hawks and the Gunter Tigers. It's not Gunter versus Canadian. It's not. And for Wall, last week against Canadian in a 49-3 romp, it sure seemed like they were telling folks that there's a new sheriff in town. That was a statement performance from the Hawks to win Region 1. And there's a lot to like about this ball club, man. Quarterback Landon York has been absolutely terrific. Wide receiver Reed Robertson is outstanding. And their defense, led by Ethan Mikhailowicz, has been really terrific all year long, and especially of late. The thing about Wall is that they have a ton of speed. They are going to be a team challenging for the 3A track title in the spring, and that is a really problematic thing to deal with on the football field. But Gunter has an outstanding track team of their own and an outstanding football team to go along with them as well. Quarterback Preston Tarpley has stepped in at the quarterback spot seamlessly. That offense is rolling. They have a just stable of running backs that they can turn to out of that pistol option offense. And oh yeah, that defense led by Luke Bullard has really stepped up and is starting to really play Gunter defense, right? They fly to the football. They get helmets to the football, maybe better than any team in Texas. And so what's interesting, I think we've seen Gunter Canadians so much, and what's interesting about that matchup is that both teams really have the book on each other. Wall and Gunter is a different kind of thing to deal with, because this Wall team, I think their speed can really challenge Gunter. And I think the way they're playing gives them a really good shot in this ball game. But it's hard to pick against the state champs. I think Gunter's your favorite. I think the Tigers return to AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Randle Reed Stadium in New Caney. It is a 3A Division II state semifinal between the Tidehaven Tigers and the Woodville Eagles, two teams that weren't supposed to be here, quite frankly, but kind of for different reasons. For Tidehaven, they weren't supposed to be here because they graduated so heavy. Remember, they played in the state championship game last year, but then Joseph Dodds, their star running back, is off to Baylor. They were supposed to take a step back. Not so. Back in a state semifinal because Jake and Duren, their running back, has stepped up in a big way. Quarterback Cale Russell, I think, has really emerged as a playmaker for them. And their defense, they're doing that thing where when they get in the playoffs, that defense hits another gear. It's almost as if David Lucio knows what he's doing. Weird. On the other side for Woodville, the reason they're not supposed to be here is because they've never done this before, right? They had never been to the third round, let alone the fourth round, let alone the fifth round there. But they have been absolutely terrific. And Tavian Hunter, you do not know that name, 5 touchdowns in the first half of their regional final win last week. They have been absolutely terrific offensively. That is going to be the real money matchup here, is that Woodville offense, which has been explosive and big play merchants, going up against Tidehaven, where the one thing they do is keep you from hitting big plays. That is what is so fascinating about this ball game. I think this is one of the toughest games to call of the week, quite frankly. I think the big game experience for Tidehaven, being here last year and doing what they did last year, gives them a little bit of an edge. This game is close and maybe the game of the weekend, but I think Tidehaven heads back to AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Thursday night at the Star in Frisco. It's a 3A Division I state semifinal between the Paradise Panthers and the Malakoff Tigers. And the state's longest winning streak rolls on for Malakoff, now 30 in a row. And what they did last week to Liberty Ilo is eye-opening, okay? That was one of the most explosive offenses in Texas high school football, and Malakoff went and shut them out. It was awfully impressive from them. Their defense has been absolutely terrific. And the guy at the helm of both sides of the ball is Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones, who has been absolutely unbelievable, hit another level here. And offensively, defensively, he is their stud horse. You add in running back Jason Tennyson, who missed all of last year with injury, who feels like he's playing inspired football right now. Awfully impressive. Really, really impressive from Malakoff. If they're going to defend their crown, they will need to get past a really versatile Paradise team. This is a Paradise team that I think the defense takes center stage. Their defense has been strong all year long. But the guy to know here is Aiden Winters, a converted wide receiver they moved to quarterback, who is now like a dual threat dynamo back there, a guy who can absolutely take this ball game over. And it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how this Malakoff defense attacks Winters, who has been so good, and this Paradise offense, which is rolling right now, looked awfully good in their regional final win last week. It's hard to pick against a 30-game winning streak, plain and simple, and I ain't gonna do it. I think Malakoff is your favorite to go back to AT&T Stadium. I think the Tigers are heading back to Arlington. 7 o'clock Thursday night at Rice Stadium in Houston. It's a 3A Division I state semifinal between the Columbus Cardinals and the Edna Cowboys. This is a styles clash, and this is a classic Region 3 versus Region 4 matchup. If you're unfamiliar, in 3A Division I, Region 3 tends to be the speed region. It tends to be the region with the big-time athletes who can get out and run. They want to get to the edge and turn this into a track meet. And the Region 4 tends to be the power region, the bruising, just slugfest region where you better put on your big boy britches each and every week. And I think you've got two teams that embody their regions pretty well. For Edna, they're in their third straight state semifinal. Unbelievable what Jimmy Mitchell has been able to do there with the Cowboys, and it's a familiar formula, right? Offensive line's terrific. Defense is absolutely bruising, and they snap the ball to a superstar, Braylon Harris. He is that dude, man. He is a lot of fun to watch, and he is capable of taking over this ball game. Columbus has a ton of weaponry, and they really embody that Region 3 mentality of just get out and run. Okay, quarterback Adam Schobel is on another level right now, a Mr. Texas football finalist. You add in running back Grayson Rigdon, who had a huge game last week. Braylon Fisher, their star wide receiver, doesn't get enough love. This offense is absolutely humming at an exceptional level right now. I will say this about Columbus, though. I think their defense can be touched up. I think we've seen that a couple of times this year. It's going to be up to guys like John Schobel to lock down Braylon Harris and this Edna attack, because if Edna can slow down Columbus, suddenly we got a ball game if Edna can move the ball with Harris, because that big offensive line can help grind clock and shorten this ball game. I think this game is more interesting than maybe you think, because I think Edna's got the juice to hang with Columbus, but I think the weaponry for the Cardinals is too much. And I think Columbus moves on to their first ever state championship game. 7 o'clock Friday night at McKinney ISD Stadium. It is a 4A Division II state semifinal between the Brock Eagles and the Carthage Bulldogs. Did Brock score the most remarkable win of the regional finals last week? I think they did. Consider that in week 10, they played Graham in district play, and they got beat 38-0. They got launched into the sun. And 6 weeks later, they kept receipts and they beat Graham 12-10 in triple overtime. Just an unbelievable performance from Billy Mathis Ball Club. And while Brody Woods is the captain of that offense, this is a defense-first ball club. Asa Parento leading this Eagles defense. If you take out that 38-0 loss to Graham, which they've avenged, then they're giving up just under 9 points per game all year long. Absolutely terrific. That would be good enough to be second in 4A Division II in scoring defense. The problem is that the team they're playing this week is actually second in scoring defense in 4A Division II in the Carthage Bulldogs. And I mean, this defense is relentless for Scott Surratt's ball club. I mean, Clayton Ingram leads an unbelievable unit that just got done completely suffocating Van in the regional final. And then you add in the offense, right? Big offensive line. They're able to run the ball with KJ Edwards and Benny Smith. They're able to hit you over the top with Jet Surratt at the quarterback spot. And this Carthage machine looks like they're online. I will say this though, okay. So Scott Surratt, coach of Carthage, very famously 9-0 in state championship games. I will say that the state semifinals have been much more of a trouble spot for Carthage than the state championship game. In 4 of their last 5 state semifinal wins, they've been decided by 1 score. So historically, this is the time where maybe Carthage is a little bit vulnerable. But in the end, I'm just not sure how Brock can get past this Carthage defense, plain and simple. This Carthage defense playing an exceptionally high level. I think this game is really interesting. I think the Bulldogs are too much. I think Carthage is heading back to Arlington. 7 o'clock Friday night at Georgetown ISD Stadium. It is a 4A Division II state semifinal between the Waco Vega Pirates and the Wimberley Texans. And for my money, this is a matchup of the two most underrated coaches in Texas high school football. Doug Warren at Wimberley and Don Hyde at La Vega are unbelievable what they do, and I don't think they get anywhere near their due. They very quietly have put together absolute monster programs, and they will collide here in what should be a fascinating chess match. And if you like star power, this game has got it, because both these teams are loaded with playmakers. You look at La Vega, and it's Bryson Rowland. The running back has been on another planet right now and absolutely unstoppable. The offensive line is grinding, and that classic La Vega defense under Don Hyde is really starting to round into form, and that is going to be really dangerous. On the Wimberley side, it's Cody Stover, and he just did it again last week. 5 total touchdowns, more than 400 yards of total offense, an absolute animal back there, and an opportunity to send his Texans back to AT&T Stadium with another big performance. So this ultimately comes down to, in my mind, who can slow down the Stars. Can Wimberley's defense bottle up Bryson Rowland? Can La Vega find an answer to Cody Stover? It's a fascinating ball game. I think this is a coin flip, plain and simple, and I have agonized over this pick. In the end, I'm going to go with the team with the senior quarterback there in Cody Stover, who has the experience, the 3-year starter. I think that's the difference. I think Wimberley is heading for AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Friday night at Shotwell Stadium in Abilene. It is a 4A Division I state semifinal between the Canyon West Plains Wolves and the Celina Bobcats. West Plains coming off of one of the all-time Texas high school football pedigree upsets. When you consider that West Plains, in their 3rd varsity season, knocked off Stephenville, one of the all-time most decorated Texas high school football programs, in the regional final. Absolutely remarkable. Quarterback Reed Macon was great. Running back Slade Russell. The offense was humming. They came up with the plays when they needed it most. They won on the margins, and it was a signature win for this young program. Can they pull off the all-time pedigree double dip and knock off Celina, one of the other most decorated programs in Texas high school football history? And this Celina team has been terrific. Quarterback Bo Bentley, what a player. What a player. The offensive line's great. They run the ball well. Logan Gutierrez and Harrison Williams. Their defense has been mostly good, but that's the point I want to bring up here, because I think Celina's your deserving favorite. They've looked largely invincible for the majority of the year, but the last 2 weeks, Celina has allowed 870 yards passing, and Reed Macon's coming to town. I think there is a path here for West Plains, and it's coming through a shootout. I think you got to get this game into the 40s, get this thing into a scoring contest. But in the end, I don't think Celina lets it get there. I think the defense makes the plays necessary. I think this game is more interesting than the pedigree disparity may show you. But I think Celina's your favorite. I think the Bobcats are heading for Arlington. 7 o'clock Friday night at Randle Reed Stadium in New Caney. It is a 4A Division I state semifinal between the Kilgore Bulldogs and the Vernia Bears. Vernia, on the short list of teams that can actually claim that Tepper didn't believe in them, I picked against them in the area round against LBJ, and I picked against them again last week against Bay City in a district rematch, but they went and avenged their district loss, and a remarkable performance from them. And while a lot of the attention is going to be paid to the running game with Sean Garza and Keegan Hayek, I think that the difference in this Vernia team, what has really stepped up for them, has been the defense, which has really turned the corner, and they are playing exceptional right now. And they are now going to get an opportunity to face off against Kilgore, who mowed through Region 3 in impressive fashion. The Ragin' Red looking every bit the part of a state championship contender, and it is because of a nasty front 7 defensively, led by Wiley Mitchell. This front is tremendous, and that is the money matchup here, okay? Can Vernia run the ball against this Kilgore front? That's it. Because I'm not sure Vernia has a great plan B if the running game doesn't get going. The other question I have for Vernia is, can they contain Jaden Sanders, the Michigan signee, who's got big play potential every time he touches the ball? Vernia is going to love this because I'm picking against him again. I think Kilgore's defensive front is the difference in this ball game. I think it's really close, but I think Kilgore gets the win. 7 o'clock Friday night at Ford Stadium on the campus of SMU in Dallas. It is a 5A Division II state semifinal between the Argyle Eagles and the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears. It's the rematch of that 2022 state semifinal, the Fog Bowl. And there's no fog in the forecast on Friday night, but I think we're going to have a fantastic ball game nonetheless. South Oak Cliff coming off of what can only be described as a truly remarkable win over Port Neches Groves. I mean, they flattened the Indians. They crushed them into a fine paste. They were up 14-0 90 seconds into the ball game, and it was church. Okay, what South Oak Cliff is doing right now is pretty terrific. Okay, quarterback Carter Kopecky has really added another element to this offense, and then you add in, of course, that terrific running game with Mikhail Trotter, that big offensive line. But the reason they beat South Oak Cliff as soundly as they did last week was the defense, led by Kamarian Morgan, that big, ferocious defensive front, which now gets another challenge against another one of the very best offensive lines in Texas in Argyle. This Eagles offensive front is not to be trifled with. They keep their quarterback, McGuire Gasperson, very clean. He has been terrific all year long. They're able to run the ball with West and Bell. They can do a little bit of everything. A lot of this game for me comes down to the Argyle defense, which looked absolutely sensational last week against Lovejoy, shutting them down. Can they put together another sensational performance? And can South Oak Cliff reload emotionally? Okay, last week against Port Neches Groves, that was a big emotional victory that they had circled for months. They've got to reload again against a team that is absolutely good enough to beat them. I think this is a fascinating ball game, and that first quarter is going to be very telling. But I think South Oak Cliff's weaponry is a little bit too much, and I think the Golden Bears are heading back to Arlington. 7 o'clock Friday night at McLean Stadium on the campus of Baylor in Waco. It is a 5A Division II state semifinal between the Richmond Randle Lions and the Boerne Greyhounds. A lot to talk about in this ball game after Boerne's sensational high-flying win over Corpus Christi Miller 65-50, while Richmond Randle is coming off of a gutty overtime performance against a very game district foe in Iowa Colony. But for all we have to talk about, this is the game that I think has the single best strength-on-strength matchup in the state this week, which is the Boerne offense led by quarterback Hank Hendricks going up against this outstanding Randle defense led by Chase Sims. That's the money matchup. Every time Boerne has the ball, it is going to be box office. Fantastic stuff. I want to see who wins that chess match, because this Boerne attack can beat you in a variety of different ways. And this Randle defense is the only defense in Texas that has not allowed more than 14 points in a game this year. Okay, absolutely sensational. The other side of the ball, though, is where I think Randle has an advantage, because Landon Williams-Callis, their star running back, has been bottled up the past couple of weeks. I think he's ready for a breakout performance. This Boerne defense has had some struggles stopping the run. It's going to be critical for them to come up with big-time stops and go stop for stop with this Randle defense. This is a fascinating matchup, and that strength-on-strength matchup is worth the price of admission. But I think Randle is your favorite. I think the Lions clinch their first ever state championship trip. 7 o'clock Friday night at the Star in Frisco. It is a 5A Division I state semifinal between the Denton Ryan Raiders and the Highland Park Scots. You know, for Texas high school football fans of a bygone era, this is a familiar matchup, because these two teams met up 4 times over the course of 2016 to 2020, with Highland Park largely getting the better of Denton Ryan. But this is a new era, and this game is happening because Denton Ryan did the thing. They actually did it. They went out there and they knocked off Aledo, long earmarked as the team that could end the reign of Aledo in 5A Division I. They did it. They went out there and they did it by playing 48 minutes of Ryan football, okay? Defense was fantastic and held them in the ball game. Quarterback Quinn Hennigan came up with big throws. Nemo Warmate ran the ball well behind that big offensive line. It was just a clinic from Ryan of Ryan football. Their reward now is a date with Highland Park, and this is a Highland Park team that is not star-studded. They don't have these big-time prospects, although I think their sophomore quarterback, Buck Randle, he might have that dog in him. I'm a big fan of Buck Randle, but they block well, and they tackle well, and they do not make mistakes, and they pounce on your mistakes. That is what Highland Park does, and they are a classic, greater than the sum of their parts team in this one. And so a lot of this game, I think, comes down to mistakes. Okay? Can Ryan force Highland Park into mistakes? Can Highland Park pounce on Ryan's mistakes? That's the real question in this one. The other thing about this game, I think both of these teams need to play from ahead. I think both of these teams are built to play from ahead, and so who can throw that first punch in the first quarter? I think we'll learn a lot about the way this game is going to go in the first 10 minutes of the ball game. So this game is a fascinating ball game. I think I lean towards Highland Park. I think that they're able to come up with the plays to get to AT&T Stadium. Give me the Scots. 2:30 p.m. Saturday afternoon at McLean Stadium in Waco. It's a 5A Division I state semifinal between the Angleton Wildcats and the Smithson Valley Rangers, and a message to Angleton. I am sorry. I was wrong. Angleton is a team that I have picked against in every round of the playoffs. By district, area, regional semifinals, regional finals. I picked against them 4 times, 4 L's, 4 big plates of crow from me. Okay? They have proven me so wrong, so embarrassingly wrong every step of the way, including last week when they knocked off district rival LaPorte and avenged their only loss of the season. And they did it by a terrific defensive performance, a running game with Jamarcus Shockley, and they were able to come up with big time plays down the stretch. Their sophomore wide receiver Wesley Jackson was nails when they needed him the most. They're taking on a Smithson Valley team looking to make it back to AT&T Stadium, and quarterback Cade Spradling has been absolutely terrific. He's been a lot of fun to watch. That running game, that big offensive line is grinding, and their defense is playing spectacular right now. I think Angleton really needs to play a clean game in this ball game, because Smithson Valley is one of those programs that when you give them an inch, they will take a mile. But I am done doubting Angleton. I'm done. I've learned my lesson. It took me a month, but I've learned my lesson. I think Angleton's going to play for a state championship. 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon at Ford Stadium in Dallas. It is a 6A Division II state semifinal between the South Lake Carroll Dragons and the Longview Lobos. If you're somebody in Texas high school football who likes to see just like big brand names going at it, I mean, this is as good as it gets. I mean, Longview versus South Lake Carroll, what more do you want? And these are 2 teams that I think can claim they weren't supposed to be here, right? That people doubted them. For South Lake Carroll, it's not that they weren't good, it's just that they're really banged up right now. They're on a running back number 3 right now with Davis Penn and Riley Wormley done for the year. But quarterback Angelo Renda has stepped up in a big way, and last week against Denton Geyer, you saw that dragon mentality of pouncing on your mistakes. They came up with huge plays on defense and in special teams to push them over the top. They now draw Longview out of East Texas, who knocked off DeSoto in emphatic fashion to dethrone the Eagles, and it was remarkable what they were able to do, okay? The defense played nearly flawlessly, and running back Boosie Washington, nearly 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think he's the most dangerous player in Texas right now. Like, he's unstoppable. He's on an unthinkable heater right now. And they just lined up in 21 personnel and just ran the dang ball. And they did it at will. It was truly a sight to behold. So this game is fascinating because I think both these teams feel like they're going to be able to move the ball on the other. Angelo Renda has been absolutely terrific for South Lake Carroll. This game is going to come down to who gives the other team a short field, like once or twice. This game comes down to turnovers, and this game comes down to mistakes. I wonder if the injuries are going to catch up to South Lake Carroll. That's one question I have in this one. And I wonder, can South Lake Carroll slow down Boosie Washington enough? This is box office stuff, one of the toughest games to call this week. But if you beat the man, that makes you the man. Longview's got the crown right now. I think the Lobos make it back to AT&T Stadium. 7 o'clock Saturday night at McLean Stadium in Waco. It is a 6A Division II state semifinal between the Humble Summer Creek Bulldogs and the Vandegrift Vipers. And it's Houston versus Austin. It's the final game of the weekend. We will punch our 24th and final ticket to AT&T Stadium there in Waco. And you've got 2 teams that I think believe that they are teams of destiny, and for good reason, right? For Summer Creek, they survived the toughest district in Texas high school football, District 23 6A, including beating district rival Kingwood like a drum for the second time last week. And they've got that dude at quarterback. Blake Thomas is playing out of his mind right now. He is an unbelievable playmaker right now for this Bulldog squad. For Vandegrift, they lost week 2 to Cedar Park, and since then they have been unbeatable, and quarterback Miles Teodecki has stepped up in a huge way, and that Vandegrift defense in classic Vandegrift style is really playing its best football at the right time. They are looking absolutely terrific defensively. The difference in this ball game, which can be a little bit too close to call, I look at the defense for Summer Creek, especially that defensive front led by Chad Woodfork. I think that's the difference. I think they're able to get some pressure. I think they're able to come up with stops. I think they're able to get them back to AT&T Stadium. I think this game is really close. I think the Bulldogs go back to the title game. 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon at Eagle Stadium in Allen. It is a 6A Division I state semifinal between the North Crowley Panthers and the Duncanville Panthers, and it is Judgment Day in 6A in DFW. These are the 2 best teams in 6A in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It is the best team in Fort Worth, North Crowley, and it's the best team in Dallas, in Duncanville, and they are colliding for 2nd consecutive year. You may remember that last year these 2 teams met here, and Duncanville had their way with North Crowley. Absolutely clobbered North Crowley, and there's reason to believe that this game will be different. Duncanville has not been impenetrable, right? The past couple of weeks, they've gotten into some dog fights, but in the end, they have an Alabama signee at quarterback in Keelan Russell, a Mr. Texas football finalist, and an Oregon signee out wide in Decorian Moore, and that's a neat trick if you can do it. Plus, they've got an outstanding defense per usual under Coach Reginald Samples. They are the team to beat in DFW, hard stop, and arguably the team to beat in Class 6A. That's just the fact of the matter. North Crowley feels like they have fixed a lot of the things that went wrong for them last year. They're better on the offensive line, and the weaponry they've got is really remarkable, whether it's Quentin Gibson, also a Mr. Texas football finalist, Chris Jemerson, Daniel Bray, Cornelius Warren. They have got dudes all over the field that can test this Duncanville defense. The other thing is, can they get the ball, can they get running, right? Because this is a matchup last year, if you remember, that Duncanville was able to run the ball essentially at will, and North Crowley was not able to run the ball at all, and that was essentially the ball game. How much has changed there? Look, if you're trying to dethrone a 2-time state champ, the onus is on you to answer the questions, okay? Can North Crowley run the ball? Can North Crowley contain Decorian Moore? Right? Can North Crowley come up with a couple of turnovers? Can they pressure Keelan Russell? They have to answer at least 3 of those 4 questions in the affirmative to win this ball game. I think they're going to do it. I've been on the North Crowley bandwagon for quite a while. I ain't hopping off at the key moment. I think North Crowley's going to do it. I like North Crowley to make it to AT&T Stadium. And 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon at Legacy Stadium in Katy. It is a 6A Division I state semifinal between the North Shore Mustangs and the Westlake Chaparrals. 4th meeting in the last 5 seasons in the state semifinals for these 2 ball clubs. They have known each other very, very well. And for these 2 teams, they each had to beat a district rival in the regional finals to get here. For North Shore, they beat Atascocita for the 10th consecutive time, and I think this was their best performance of the season. Absolutely terrific. They unleashed Caleb Bailey as a runner. He was absolutely terrific, plus threw a couple of touchdowns. He's got big-time playmakers like Qualinaro Farrakhan and Dion DeBlanc out wide. He's got DeAndre Hardham in the backfield, a terrific offensive line. They looked like they were in full bloom last week. Westlake went and beat rival Lake Travis in a real workmanlike effort once again. And look, Reese Wise came up with big plays at the quarterback spot when they needed him most. And that defense, man, Elliott Shaper, their linebacker, I think he might be my favorite player in the state right now. I mean, this dude is awesome. He is exceptional, a tremendous Texas high school football player, and a guy who your eye is drawn to whenever he's on the field. I love Elliott Shaper at the linebacker spot for Westlake. The difference in this ball game for me is the North Shore defense, which has been elite. Plain and simple. Guys like Devin Sanchez, Nigel Pringle, that big front, they have been terrific all year long. This feels like the 2018 North Shore defense, a vintage North Shore defense. I think Westlake's defense is going to be able to hold them in it, but I'm not sure they've got the firepower to get past this North Shore defense themselves. I think this game is low scoring and a lot of fun, but I think the Mustangs are heading back to AT&T Stadium. And those are the picks. That's all 20 UIL Texas High School Football State semifinal games. So now you can let me know gently in the comments, what am I wrong about? Leave comments down below. Don't forget that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And of course, see us at texasfootball.com, where you can find complete coverage of the 2024 Texas High School Football State Championship games at texasfootball.com/state. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the Texas High School Football State semifinals. We'll see you.